Hey, welcome to Wednesday Night Live. We're glad you've chosen to join us this evening. I'm sitting here today with two of our wonderful civil servants, Joe Bippus and Aaron Miller. Joe is the city manager of Three Rivers, Michigan, and Aaron is our state legislator. Am I saying that right? What's the district? What's our
59.
59? And so we're so excited to have them here. You know, they have a servant's heart, and they have served our state and city with distinction. I'm going to ask, I'll start with Joe. Tell us a little bit about your history in Three Rivers and I know you're a Three Riversite, right?
Yeah.
You're a Wildcat.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit. Give us a minute of your history, how long you've been around, and how you got to your position.
So I grew up in Three Rivers, and my family owned a business here, worked for many years. Now they're since retired, but I left for 12 years, went to college, got a job on the east side of the state, came back to Three Rivers about 23 years ago as the police chief. Did that for a few years, and then I was promoted to city manager, and have been doing that for 20 years.
Yeah. Joe was police chief, and he was, let me tell you something, he gave thorough pat downs. I heard about that. You did a good job of that. So efficiency is your middle name. I appreciate that, Joe. You know I love you, right, Joe?
Yeah, I thought you just said you weren't going
to.
to.
Yeah, I said I pray.
You didn't last.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. But anyway, well, it's good to be known for something, right? And Aaron, you've got the same last name as me, but we're not related, are we? I mean,
Correct. No.
So tell us a little bit about how you got where you are, and a little about your future too. You know, because I know you're at the back end of your time with us as a state.
So, a little fun fact, since you mentioned my name, my grandpa Miller was an AG pastor for many years. Knew Steve and worked closely with him, but he was up in Portage, and they moved all around northern Indiana, southern Michigan, where my grandpa pastored. So that's the church my dad grew up in, and so my background is very similar to New Hope here. In fact, my aunt and uncle attended here for a time a number of years ago.
Yeah.
So I've got a little bit of history, even though, yes, we aren't related. I have lived in Sturgis my entire life on the other corner of the county. I've gotten to know Three Rivers in the course of my job over the last 5.5 years. And it's been a joy. It's got a lot of great people. And I've gotten to work with Joe and many other community leaders on several good things that have either happened to Three Rivers or come to Three Rivers, you name it. And still some things are making good progress. Downtown is definitely making a good comeback. And seeing that progress over the last 5.5 years has been a big joy for me. I get the good fortune of serving almost 2 full counties. And things can kind of get siloed, but it's fun to work with a diverse group of people. It makes for a fun job. It really does. So that's just a little bit of my background. I was in education. I was a teacher for 4 years before running for the Michigan House. And here I am right now. And then, like you mentioned, Steve, my future is a little bit unknown. I don't know what step is next come January 1st. A lot of people ask me, when's your term up or is your term up? And that is January 1st of this next year. And what path is next for me is unknown for now. And of course, this crisis makes it a little more unknown. It's thrown in some economic turmoil. So I don't know what that'll be, but I'm looking forward to what God has for me and what that path will be. So.
Great. Fantastic. Hey, how often are you, I know you're in Sturgis, how often do you go up into Lansing for your responsibilities? How frequent is that?
It's been a little sporadic over the last couple of months. We have gone up to Lansing several times in these couple of months to work on very important, timely things. Normally, it is 3 days a week up in Lansing, and those days are full days.
Do you stay up there or do you come back?
I don't, actually. I took our former Senator Bruce Caswell's advice, and he said, just really casually in a conversation before I came in, he said, you know what, it'd be good for you to travel home every night. And I said, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I do. In fact, on my way home from Lansing, most weeknights, I'm stopping at a city commission meeting like Three Rivers or a township meeting like Lockport or Fabius, and getting to see the people back home, give them an update, hear what's going on. It's kind of a two-way conversation, but Those Lansing days are full days, Monday and Friday. I get around to the district doing things like this, community events, updates, working on issues. It could take a million different paths, but that's kind of what my schedule looks like.
Okay. You know, and within that schedule, you know, our Governor Whitmer has given, I think 3 now, maybe 4, 3 at least, executive orders that have impacted our
78.
78
78.
since the lockdown.
73, I think, since the lockdown. But
Well, I know of 3 that have caught
there
my
are
eye.
stay-at-home orders, and the stay-at-home orders have been 3 or 4. Yes.
Okay, so 78 orders. So you know, at least she's not, you know, laying around watching Netflix. She's busy, so that's good. But I wanted to talk to you about some of the recent ones that have impacted our community. The ones that some see as maybe oppressive or extensive. Others see as what wisdom. You know, it's all over the map, and I think there's probably a lot of truth in all those things. But talk about your role and and how that's kind of affected us, the local citizen, the person, how that's flowed through you and what you've observed from that, and just overarching.
Yeah, good question. So, in a state of emergency, legislators don't have any say on what orders get put in or not. It gets a little complicated, but there is one law that permits the state legislature to oversee the length of a state of emergency, and there's another law that separately does not have any control on how long how long a state of emergency lasts. So that's where we're at now. We are under the law that does not require time limit or any sort of control from the legislative side. So we are under a state of emergency until Governor Whitmer says otherwise.
Could this go on for? I mean, I don't think it would, but could it go on for years? I mean,
technically it could. There are many different court fights. There's a court fight between the governor and the legislature going on right now, as we speak. And then there are many cases still in court where private citizens or businesses have sued the governor in her official capacity, basically sued the state, and some of those are ongoing as well. Some of them have been decided that she has been in the right. There are, for anybody watching, there are 40 executive orders still in effect, and it's important to realize that not all of those are stay-at-home orders. Some of those are, I haven't memorized all 40, Steve, but some of them are less important, I would say, to every average citizen. Some of them concern things like public notary, and instead of getting something notarized in person where you are being seen, you can do that in a way that involves online somehow. I've never done that, but she has given an executive order basically okaying electronic notarization across the board. Some of them are a little bit more menial like that, and I wouldn't call that life or death. It's still important to whoever
if you
needs
need
to know
one,
it,
it's good to have that.
Yeah.
So we agree with some of the orders. You know, yeah.
Yeah, and every state has been a mixed bag. All 50. Some states are a little bit less restrictive. Some states are up with Michigan. So it's really a mixed bag on what we have. Every state has different laws governing states of emergency, and so it's really different. Trying to compare apples and oranges, and then of course, different states have different populations, different densities, different industries,
right.
And you could go on and on and on. So it's
How
tough
does
to
it-
compare apples and oranges.
With so many pastors watching this and us being here in a church setting, there's been some confusion, quite a bit of confusion. I've heard, and I was guilty of it at the beginning. When I first went online, I was said, due to the governor's executive order, we're unable to gather here today. I thought I was giving a fact. I wasn't trying to blame her. I was just explaining why we weren't in the church. And someone about your level of government, in a nice way, let me know that I was wrong. But not they weren't mad. In fact, they were just saying, hey, you know, that's unfair to use her as your excuse or reason, because specifically and I checked on it, I printed it out, she had exempted churches from any penalty for gathering. So you have this you know, it's easy to get up behind your soapbox or behind your pulpit and say the governor has stopped it. You know, I think it's important not to give out, certainly not intentionally, we would never do that, but give out misinformation. And yet we chose to close up. Full disclosure, we closed early, but we didn't do it out of fear or out of an executive order. We did it out of love and concern for our congregation.
Sure.
And when we reopen, we're going to do a soft open, and we're going to do it out of love and concern for our congregation. So, but am I misunderstanding that or misinterpreting that? Maybe you could shed some light on that.
It's
Don't worry, Joe. We're going to get to you. Joe's a little nervous when I don't bring him in. I'll bring him in.
He'll be back.
Yeah.
There are many local issues too that we've got to navigate too. So it's not black and white. Her first group restriction executive order missed anything about churches, and so it would have banned church for most people. 250 kind of eats up some churches, and then I think the next restriction was 50, and that obviously eats up more. So it's not black and white. Ever since Executive Order 5, I believe it was, Executive Order 11 had an exemption, oddly enough, from the penalty only for religious worship. So it's not so black and white, but yes, if you're exempt from the penalty, basically you are free to meet because there's not going to be a penalty for you. And yes,
there might be a penalty in public relations in a community.
There could be,
you're
yeah.
meeting and,
Yeah.
and they're thinking you're going to spread the virus. So.
Well, and that's the thing. It was left up to each church, pastor, you name it, to decide for him or herself. Board. Each church can decide on their own what they want to do, and that's how it goes. So really, it's personal responsibility, like you said. You're operating out of love and concern for your congregation. You're just like many else are.
Thank you for that. So, Joe, locally here, we have Menards, we have Home Depot, we have Myers and Walmart. People are going in and out, you know, and then downtown we have some restaurants that were doing really well prior to the opening. I know you're not the chief of police anymore, although you still like to dress up in your uniform, from what I've heard occasionally. But tell me about how the city, you know, how's it affecting our city, and you know, what's your sense of how our local merchants are doing? Especially, Aaron had mentioned we really were working on revitalizing downtown and things. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the real sad thing about it is we have been in a lot of momentum, and the last few years, businesses have opened, they've invested, they've taken the risk themselves. And these are small mom and pop stores downtown that have taken the risk, and now my understanding is with the carryout business, curbside delivery type things, you know, there might be, my understanding is 10 to 15% of their normal business, and that's not. I talked to one business owner, and he said, you know, I'm lucky if I just cover my expenses, and he goes, if I can cover my expenses, I'll be happy. So not making a profit necessarily.
Yeah. And then what about masks and stuff downtown and going to these things and going to these stores? What, you know, someone says it's a rule, it's a law, it's a mandate. Where in your mind as a city manager, where are we with the masks?
I think it's a best practice. If you're going, that should be implemented. People should still heed the cautions of hand sanitizer, washing your hands, social distancing. You know, when we came here today, it was, you know, we're not going to handshake, even though it's a normal tendency to do it.
And Joe's a big hugger usually, and so I didn't get my hug, you know. So
he's thrown out a number of jabs at me already.
Wait a minute, being a big hugger, I thought that was a good thing. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Now Aaron doesn't hug at all, but you're a big hugger, so you know you're really struggling without the hug. Well, hugs from me anyway. So. But yeah, a lot of it's just wisdom. I think when people say, you know, I guess it's again the new law, the order says you must wear a mask. You know, the 6 feet. You know, you're right. Even when you came in, my first thing was to reach, but then we recognized it because we are being inundated with wisdom and safety, and so I guess, and either one of you can take this. What's the future look like? What's your sense after May 28th? I mean, do you think we're going to hitch up the wagon again for another? I'm not asking to be prophets here at the tabernacle, but if you had to pick, you think the 28th based on what we're seeing. See, one thing about our county here, we've really not been impacted. I mean, that we look at our numbers. Yeah, I think 34.
They've come up
They've gone up.
quite a bit in the
jumped up?
last week. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like 64 now.
65.
Okay, I didn't look at today's,
Wait.
but I do know only one. At least the last time I checked, only one death. Or
One
is it-
death so far. Yeah.
Yeah, thank God for that, and that was a tragedy. But I think the further you are away from, it's like I grew up near the Twin Towers, and my family, my sister-in-law went to like 13 funerals in 3 months. So, you know, that impacted that area even to this day. The further you get away from whatever you call the epicenter or the worst,
Right.
and you go and visit it, you're like impacted, of course. So the further we get away from Detroit, Wayne County, Oakland County, sometimes these rules or restrictions are harder to swallow. But if you're living there and you're seeing, you know, it becomes more easy to take down. So what do you think? Or maybe you're like, if you don't know what to think, you know, just say that. But do you think May 28th, are you getting a sense from any information that this will be moving toward more of the normal, as they say, although you're not allowed to say normal anymore.
Right. Well, so I've always wanted a crystal ball for Christmas. If anybody wants to get me that still, I could use one. It would have been nice for the last 5 years in this job. But we don't know. We obviously don't know what's going to happen with the virus. As you pointed out, things are different depending on where you are. Number one, we have a state of everywhere from Wayne County down to Keweenaw County. Wayne County has about 2 million people, and Keweenaw has 2,000, I think. So it's a diverse group of people. Again, diverse group of counties, and Governor Whitmer has signaled towards some regionalization as a result of that. She has also given out a 6-stage plan. And she pointed out in one of her most recent news conferences that we are in stage 3. We're still pretty early.
Is it stage or phase?
Phase, maybe. I honestly.
Well,
I
I'm
can't
just here to
remember.
help. You know,
Yeah.
you're kind of, you know, you're phasing out. I know you're. It's a phase. Yeah, phase. That's why I thought of phases. Yeah.
So we
We
kind of
started in phase 3 when it first came out. I think maybe we had the other phases, but when she announced it,
She hadn't released a set of stages or
I think
phases
people
or
were
anything.
relieved by that a little bit. Like people when I preach
Yeah.
on Sundays, they wish I would start with point 3 and only have 4. But you know, sometimes you get. The
I get what
sense.
you're saying,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It
Did I
at
just take a
least
shot at me? See, I
I'll
took a shot at me. So yeah.
I'll have to join in.
Yeah.
I think people get some reassurance out of that. They want to hear planning, and they want to hear some commitment to a schedule or something like that. So that's kind of a rough schedule. But again, no governor out of the 50 governors or anybody else knows the future, so it's impossible to predict. I think we're going to see, with Ohio and Indiana doing some scheduled reopening. I think their restaurants open up at 50% capacity today. And with that happening, I think that'll add in some, maybe call it pressure, maybe just call it a trend. I think that'll add in some phased-in reopening in Michigan, but maybe on a more
It's
conservative
going to
level.
add into my calories because I'm going to Essen House after this. I don't know what you guys are. I think that it opens. I mean, and I do like the idea of 50%. You know, whatever the fire marshal had originally stated, that that's a good way to do it because it's usually somewhere in the restaurant. If it says 70, you're at 35. Spread the tables out.
We'll have the benefit of seeing the
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll see it right next door. The other nice thing is restaurant owners have been keeping their facilities and their customers clean and safe for years, and they're good at it. They're going to come up with innovative ways, even apart from tables that are 2 apart. They're going to come up with innovative ways to protect people. Over the weekend, I saw a shower curtain idea. Somebody put clear shower curtains around their restaurant booths, and I thought, I wouldn't have thought of that. And then
You
stuff
could actually
isn't
have the
spreading.
sprinklers come on and people could really clean.
Right, there you go.
Why stop with just your hands? You got private showers. Yeah, that's.
So we'll see, we'll get to see Indiana right next door. Their numbers are still rising, but they're lower per capita than Michigan's are. So we're gonna have a case to look at, kind of someone trying things out right next door to us. So that'll be an advantage for
That's
us.
an advantage. What about you? And now, you said you don't have a crystal ball, but this guy's the smartest guy I ever met. I mean, he is one of the smartest guys, so he knows what's going to happen. So, Joe, take a stab at it. What happens
I'm
after
gonna
this
steal it then.
Yeah. Everybody pay attention now. Get your notepad out. Our city manager is going to tell us what's going to happen on May 29th, and we're excited to hear it. You're the first one, Joe. Go.
Yeah, Well, I don't have a crystal ball either.
Oh,
What?
shucks.
I know.
Oh, man.
I had a magic 8-ball.
Oh, yeah, the old 8-ball
Yeah.
that you kept turning until you got the answer you wish you had. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
So that's sorry, everybody. I think we'll see some gradual opening. I think there has to be we'll have the experience of seeing others do it, and if it goes well in other states, I'm sure we'll follow suit and start having, like you said, there'll be innovative ways, other ways of sanitizing the facilities that people are using too. I know that there's new technologies being implemented, not actually new technology, it's effective technology, but it's being re-engineered for different uses. We just bought a couple for City Hall. It's a room sanitizer, and it sanitizes, uses that ultraviolet light or whatever to sanitize the air. Sucks in the air in the room, runs it through the light, and puts it back out. Kills every virus. So we're going to be putting some of those in City Hall.
What are those financially? What's the investment?
I think they were like $1,500 a piece. So people, my guess is, like you said, innovation. People will. We've been having the cars. ServPro has been fogging our police cars inside our ambulances and emergency vehicles once a week to kill any virus inside the cars. So I mean, there's methods and things that will be implemented.
Yeah, Americans, especially with a capitalistic society, looking for, I'm not just a motive of money, but that's always a creative drive for people. And I do think our hotels, our hotel rooms, our school will never be cleaner, especially when we first opened. I mean, some of these hotels have been shut down. They've been, and everything's being cleaned. And I think, and I do think churches or auditoriums like this will have to go with stuff like that. And just, we want our people to be safe, but also just to get over that fear factor that's been driven, to that. And I'm hoping that they'll do that in our senior homes. They really need to because that obviously
Obviously an important place.
Yeah, and well, I want to say thank you both for coming. It's been informative. I appreciate you explaining how we got here, and I love the idea of some of the new things that are happening. I know you both, we're not here to shill for any company except to say Lillian and I have been very intentionally buying locally over through this. Not all the meals have been healthy, but they've all been local. We've eaten a lot of chicken wings. And our restaurants, we've tried to really, really help them, especially if they don't have a national covering to reinvest in. And so for that part, and the people when you come in there, man, they're so appreciative. I mean, it's like if they, I know you, you're the best, so like going over to grandma's house to get an order, and they're coming out all masked up, and so and I know they're doing their best, and I like what you said about restaurants are already, lean toward that, and so. We've all been inconvenienced. There's been frustrations. There have been aggravations. My wife and I, for the last 27 years, we've been here. We work together. We live together. We sleep together. We go to church together. But not all couples live like that, and so they've had to make some adjustments. So we've been praying for families and having the kids home and inside. So as a church, we've continued. Our food pantries continued. Our ministry online's continued. We'll probably always be online from this point on. Once we start having gatherings, we want people to come back, but there's people that can't come to church that are ill or shut in or unable to. So much like the health issues, we as ministers and churches have relooked at ways going forward to be effective. And we've been grateful. We had 1,800 views of the last sermon, and I don't have that many here on Sunday, but people are hearing the gospel and hearing things. At least tuning in for a while to hear that. So we're trying to stay positive. Our goal here has always been throughout this crises or the shutdown, lockdown, whatever you want to call it, is to keep the faith, to share hope whenever we can, and to show love and turn these obstacles into opportunities. I hope you're doing that with your family. I hope you're doing that in your community, in your neighborhood. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you, and thank you guys for being here. I'd shake
Thanks
your
for
hand,
having us. Yeah.
but we want to be good examples. So air high five. You guys forgive me for the jabs?
Yeah,
Forgive me.
absolutely.
We're in church. You got to forgive me.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
God bless you. Thank you for watching. Stay safe.